Welcome to video 3 of the Start Here series. In the first 2 videos, you built the foundation, what Claude AI is, how to describe tasks so it produces something useful, and the 6-element framework that does that. If you haven't watched those yet, start there. Links in the description. This video is where things get noticeably more powerful. We're setting up Cowork, Claude AI's dedicated project workspace. And by the end of this video, you'll have your first project live and producing better outputs in less time than anything you've done with Claude AI so far. 2 products in the description worth knowing about. The brief, 1 page, is free. Your first week with Claude AI at work is $20. Day 2 of that guide covers exactly what we're doing in this video, with a fillable worksheet. Both links below. Here's the problem that Cowork solves. Every time you start a new Claude AI conversation, it starts from 0. It doesn't know who you are, it doesn't know what organization you work in, it doesn't know who your stakeholders are, or what they care about, what tone works in your professional context, or what you've been working on. Which means every brief you write has to carry all of that context, every single time. That's the main reason briefs feel long, because you're not just describing the task, you're reintroducing yourself and your world from scratch. Cowork changes this with projects. A project is a dedicated workspace where Claude AI holds your context permanently. You write it once, it's there in every conversation you have within that project, forever, or until you update it. The result, your briefs get shorter, your outputs get more specific, and the amount of thinking Claude AI can do on your behalf gets deeper, because it's working from a richer understanding of your situation. Let's be specific about what a Cowork project actually is. A project is a folder in Claude AI that contains 2 things, a context block and a conversation history. The context block is what you write, a description of the project, your role, the key people involved, the goals, the tone conventions, and anything specific Claude AI should always know when working on this. Think of it as a permanent brief that applies to every task in this project. The conversation history is everything you've discussed within this project, every task you've brought to it, every output Claude AI has produced, every direction you've given. Over time, this history gives Claude AI an increasingly nuanced understanding of how you work, what you like, and what this project needs. The 2 together, the context you write and the history that accumulates, are what make Cowork fundamentally different from a regular Claude AI conversation. Before we set one up, how many projects do you actually need? The answer is 1 per major responsibility or communication context, not 1 per task, 1 per area of work. If you manage a team, 1 project for team management. If you work on a major client account, 1 project for that client. If you're running a significant internal initiative, 1 project for that initiative. For most professionals, 2 or 3 projects covers everything. A project for your main client or external relationship, a project for internal communications and team management, possibly a project for a major current initiative. The key principle: a project should represent something you return to repeatedly, where the context carries forward. One-off tasks don't need a project. Handle those in a regular conversation. Recurring responsibilities, ongoing relationships, and major initiatives all benefit from one. Today, we're setting up your most important one, the one where better, faster communication would make the most difference to your week. Part 1. Writing your project context. This is the most important thing you'll do in Cowork. Everything else follows from it. A strong project context has 5 elements. 1. What the project is. Not just a name, a description of what this area of work covers, what it's trying to achieve, and why it matters. This project covers all external communications for the Northbridge client account, a 3-year relationship that we're currently midway through a significant system implementation with. 2. Your role, who you are in this context, not just your job title, your specific function in relation to this project. I'm the account manager responsible for the client relationship. I write most of the external communications and chair the weekly status meetings. 3. The key people. Not just names and titles, what you know about what each person cares about, how they prefer to communicate, and what their relationship to you is. This is where specificity makes the biggest difference. Sarah Chen is the client's operations director, commercially focused, reads everything in the first paragraph, hates unnecessary formality. 4. Current focus. What's most active or important right now? This changes, and when it does, you update it. We're currently managing the transition from Phase 2 to Phase 3. The main tension is timeline pressure on their side versus scope creep risk on ours. 5. Conventions. The rules Claude AI should always follow in this project. What to always include, what to never do. What format works for this context. Always include a clear next step at the end of any client communication. Never use the word leverage as a verb. Here's the template. Copy it, fill it in for your project, paste it into Cowork as your project context. This project covers what the project is and what it's trying to achieve. I am, your role in relation to this project, specific, not just your job title. Key people, name, role, what they care about, how they communicate, / name, role, what they care about, how they communicate. Current focus. What's most active or important right now? Update this as things change. Always. Things to always include in outputs from this project. Never. Words, topics, framings, or formats to avoid. Tone. How communications in this project should feel. Fill it in with as much specific detail as you can. More detail produces richer outputs. Vague descriptions produce generic outputs. The same principle as the brief framework from video 2 applied to the standing context. Here's what a strong project context looks like. A communications manager at a financial services firm. This project covers all internal and external communications for the operations division of Northbridge Group, a 400-person financial services firm. The division is currently midway through a major system migration, affecting all 200 operations staff. I am the communications manager for operations, reporting to the COO. I write communications on behalf of the COO and the division generally, and I chair the weekly communications working group. Key people. Sarah Chen, COO, reads everything in the first paragraph, needs the key point up front, approves all major communications before send. Division leadership team, 8 people. Experienced professionals who want clarity and brevity, not hand-holding. Operations staff, approximately 200. Varied backgrounds, plain language essential, clear actions required. Current focus, managing change communications for the system migration. Staff anxiety is high. Clarity and reassurance are the primary objectives right now. Always, include a clear next step in any communication that requires one. End migration communications with the support contact details. Never use technical jargon in staff communications. Never send anything to the COO without a one-sentence summary at the top. Tone, internal leadership, direct and brief. Staff, warm, plain, reassuring. External, formal and precise. Notice what every task brief in this project gets for free. Sarah's reading habits, the migration context, the staff anxiety dynamic, the tone rules for each audience. A brief like, draft the weekly migration update for staff is now enough to produce something genuinely usable. Part 2. Setting up your project in Cowork. Step by step from opening the app to your first task. Step 1. Open Cowork. Open the Claude AI desktop app. In the left sidebar, you'll see the Cowork option. Click it. Then click New Project. Name your project specifically, not work or my project, something that describes exactly what it covers. Northbridge client account, Q3 operations communications, team management, marketing. You'll have multiple projects eventually, and specific names make switching between them fast. If you're using Claude AI in the browser rather than the desktop app, the navigation is slightly different, but Cowork is accessible from the main menu. The setup process from here is identical. Step 2. Add your project context. This is where you paste in the context you've written using the template from Part 1. In Cowork, there's a designated area for your project instructions. This is separate from the conversation area. What you paste here is loaded automatically into every conversation you have in this project. Take your time with this step. A weak project context will produce outputs that are only marginally better than a regular Claude AI conversation. A strong project context will produce outputs that feel like they were written by someone who's been working with you for months. Don't worry about making it perfect on the first attempt. You'll update it. The first version just needs to cover the 5 elements: project description, your role, key people, current focus, and conventions. You'll refine it as you use it. Step 3. Add relevant documents. Cowork lets you upload files into a project that become part of the permanent context. This is powerful. A previous proposal whose style you'd like Claude AI to match. A stakeholder brief. A style guide. A process document that Claude AI should always have access to. You don't need to upload documents to get started, but if there's something that defines how this project operates, adding it now means Claude AI has that reference point from day one. A note on what to upload. Think about what you'd hand to a new colleague to get them up to speed on this account or project. That's your document set for Cowork. Step 4. Bring your first task to the project. Open a conversation within your project, not a new standalone conversation, a conversation inside this Cowork project. Start a brief for something you actually need to produce this week. Here's the test. Write a brief that's noticeably shorter than what you'd write in a standalone Claude AI conversation. Leave out everything that the project context already covers. Don't reintroduce yourself. Just describe the specific task. If the project context is doing its job, what comes back should be noticeably more specific and more calibrated than what a standalone conversation would produce, even from a shorter brief. That's the signal that your project context is working. If something feels off, the tone isn't quite right, a key person's preferences aren't being reflected, that's a sign the context needs more detail. Add it and try again. Step 5. Keep the context current. Your project context isn't a document you write once and forget. It's a living description of your working relationship with this project. When significant things change, a new key stakeholder joins, the project phase shifts, priorities change, update the context. Treat it the way you'd treat your own mental model of the situation. If your understanding of the project has changed, your Cowork context should reflect that. A practical habit. At the end of each week, spend 2 minutes reviewing your project context. Ask, does this still accurately describe where things are? Is there something from this week's work that should be in here? Is anything out of date? This 2-minute habit is what keeps Cowork producing high-quality outputs over time. Part 3. How Cowork compounds over time. Here's what happens over time in a well-maintained Cowork project. Week 1. You've written a good project context. Your briefs are shorter than they used to be. The outputs are more specific because Claude AI already knows the key people and the standing context. You're saving time on every task. Month 1. You've refined the context based on what worked and what didn't. The conversation history holds 2 or 3 weeks of real tasks. That history makes subsequent tasks faster because Claude AI already understands how you work. Month 3. The project context is mature. The conversation history is rich. You're writing 2-sentence briefs that produce outputs you previously have spent 30 minutes drafting. The quality is consistent. Your best day output produced every day. Month 6. Cowork is invisible. It's just how you work. The time it saves has been reinvested in higher value thinking, better client relationships, and work you're actually proud of. One more thing worth saying about what makes a project context great as opposed to just good. The difference almost always comes down to the key people section. Most people write something like key stakeholders, the CEO, the CFO, the operations team. That's not useful. Claude AI still has to make generic assumptions about what each of those people wants and how they prefer to communicate. A great key people section reads like a brief for each person. The CEO. She reads everything on her phone between meetings. She has about 30 seconds for any update. If the key point isn't in the first sentence, she won't find it. She responds well to confidence and is allergic to hedging. That level of specificity means Claude AI can calibrate every output for the actual person who will read it, not a generic CEO. That's the difference between outputs that feel useful and outputs that feel like they were written for you. A quick diagnostic guide for when Cowork outputs aren't quite what you expected. Outputs still feel generic. The project context lacks specificity. Add more detail to the key people section and the current focus. The tone is wrong for the audience. The conventions section needs work. Be more explicit. Formal for external clients is not specific enough. External emails are always warm, professional, and concise. Never use jargon. Always end with a clear next step, is. Outputs are missing a key detail you always need. It's not in the context. Whatever Claude AI is missing is something you know but haven't written down. Add it to always. You're still writing long briefs. The context isn't doing enough heavy lifting. Look at your last 3 briefs and ask, what did I explain that the project context should already know? Move it into the context. Here's your challenge before the next video. Set up one Cowork project today. Your most important current responsibility. The one where better, faster communication would make the most difference this week. Use the template from this video. Write the context properly. Take 20 minutes. Be specific about the key people. Upload one relevant document if you have one. Then bring 3 real tasks to the project this week. Not test tasks, actual things you need to produce. Notice how the brief feels different. Notice what the output knows that it shouldn't have been able to know from the brief alone. That's Cowork doing its job. By the end of the week, you'll have a live project that's already calibrated to your working context. That's the foundation for everything that follows. Here's where you are in the Start Here series. Video 1, Absolute Beginners. What Claude AI is, getting set up, the describe, read, direct loop, done. Video 2, Beginners. The 6-element framework, 3 worked examples, building the habit, done. Video 3, Cowork for Beginners. What Cowork is, how to set up your first project, what makes a great context, how it compounds, that's this video, done. Video 4, Cowork Going Deeper. Advanced project setup. How to build multiple projects, manage a brief library within Cowork, and use the conversation history strategically. Coming next. From here, the main Claude for Work channel covers specific task types in depth. Meeting preparation, email workflows, client-facing work, and the workflow series for role-specific builds. Quick reference. Everything from this video on one screen. 5 elements of a strong project context. What the project is, your role, key people, current focus, conventions. 5 setup steps. Open Cowork, add your context, add relevant documents, bring your first task, update as things change. The diagnostic. If outputs are still generic, the context lacks specificity. If the tone is wrong, the conventions need more detail. If you're still writing long briefs, the context isn't carrying enough. The compounding principle. The longer you use a well-maintained project, the better it gets, because the context matures and the history deepens. 2 things in the description. The brief, 1 page, free. The 6-element brief framework and quality test, useful alongside Cowork. Keep it accessible for task-level briefs. Your first week with Claude AI at work, $20. Day 2 covers exactly what we did in this video, including a fillable context worksheet. Day 4 builds on this with the full system architecture. Both links in the description, via Claude for Lawyers on Gumroad. Same creator. That's the Cowork for Beginners video. 1 project, 5 elements, 3 tasks this week. By Friday, you'll have a live Claude AI workspace that knows your situation and compounds from here. Next video in the series, Cowork Going Deeper. See you there.